two, one.
Bow, 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 da, na, 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 na. Da, da, ba, da, 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 da. Here I come, rougher than the rest of them, the best of them, tougher than mother. You can call me Wade. Unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my bowling skills. I'm hard as nails. It ain't hard to tell. I break 'em down whether they solid or frail as a bowling pin. Unlike the rest of them, I'm penance my first breath. First test, feel the right, then the worst left. Welcome to Campy Cast, everybody. That was
Yeah,
the theme from the Knuckle Show. Unknown from way.
yeah, Wade, the goat. We'll
Ooh.
talk about him later. But yeah, welcome back. Today we're doing like a similar thing to what we did back in like episode 41, I believe, with like this SpongeBob Sandy Cheeks thing in the TED show when we were doing like a new movie we basically recently watched that came to Prime Video, and a new TV show that dropped that we've been anticipating for a while. So yeah, something like that, except the first movie wasn't leaked or anything like that. But regardless, yeah, that's what we're doing here today. Um, and I guess we could
Yeah.
just get right into it this time because we really like there's not really much news since at the time we're recording this is just like a
Well, I
week
have
after the
a bit
last.
of news, but I don't know if you'd like. It's
Eh,
not a big thing.
why
It
not
just
bring it up?
I don't, did you hear about the Disney leaks that have been happening, Anthony?
I think
Um,
I might have heard about it, maybe.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff actually, because I really don't know who did it or what caused it. But like around I think a day ago, as of the time we're recording this, a bunch of Disney Channel like proto stuff, like original animatics, original pitch pilots,
Oh,
like
all right.
pitch Bible, like PDFs and stuff that the shows were originally like sold as before they even got into the pitch reel phases. All that stuff got leaked, and admittedly, a lot of it is for Disney shows I don't really care about. Like what I'm not jumping and hooting and hollering over the fucking fish hooks pilot leaking, or Big City Greens, or sorry to all you Wander Over Yonder fans, but I don't support that show morally. But point is, I think it was really cool that you get to see all these shows in this like real primordial pre-phase, and then like the and it's like, oh wow, you get to see like what it was, but in this real like beta form. That's what I love behind the scenes stuff. You get a lot of cool stuff by that. I won't go on a rant about this, but they also the amphibia pilot leak, like the whole thing and all a bunch of the pitch. We already had some of that pre, but we had the a full like 11-minute pilot, which is just like the second episode of the show in a different sense. I could go on forever about that, so I'll stop myself here. But I guess the short of it is it's pretty cool. And also the Darkwing Duck spinoff pitch leaked, and that makes me mad because it looks like it'd be a really, really cool DuckTales 2017 spinoff, and it'd be really awesome. But Disney didn't greenlight it, and I guess Chip and Dale is what they want to do with their Disney afternoon properties instead. So fun. But yeah, that's all on news, I think. Is there
Uh,
anything else make a splash, Anthony?
nah,
Anything
not
big?
really. Not much of a like note that I've heard about, so nah. I guess we could just get into the movie today. So we recently watched the new comedy, the big comedy, low budget, released onto Prime Video
Mm.
recently. Hundreds of Beavers.
Yeah,
Now we've
yeah.
heard about
I
this
gotta get this out of
movie.
the way first. This is a 2022 movie. I'm not hearing you cretins who say otherwise. I love arguing my stupid perspectives on these. But moving forward, Hundreds of Beavers. I heard about this because Schaeferello's Productions, big name. You've probably heard of him, big guy. He talked about the movie Lake Michigan Monster, I think a while ago,
Great
and
movie.
I haven't seen that movie in a while, but for memory, I think it's pretty fun. It's like a nice little parody of 30s horror, goes in some weird, surreal directions. I think it's a fun movie. It does some cool stuff. Not mind
Yeah.
blowing, but I would recommend it. And the guys behind this one, I believe the same head writer, uh, he has a big full name, Ryland Briskin Cole Twos. He was coming
Yeah.
back with another big one, which was advertised being bigger and better. So much bigger and better. It was in festivals 2 years before now, before the big drop, I guess you could call it. So
Yeah.
now it's out wide. There are some theater releases, but I haven't caught any, so I have to watch this on my totally legal site. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And I really, really like this movie. I think it takes a lot of the simple ideas from like Michigan Monster, amps them up a bit. It has this real style and real flair to
It's
it
very
that I've
creative.
missed from a lot of modern comedy. Yeah, definitely. It's something I've really missed from modern comedy in a while. Really fit my particular tastes and sensibilities in a way I thought was really cool. What did you think, Anthony?
I
I really
really
love this
loved
one.
it. Anyway, yeah, but yes, I heard about it for the same source, like just through word of mouth from people like Schaefer Lewis, and then from there, like I didn't even know anything about it going in. I just had looked at the poster and I was like, "This looks amazing. Look at this." The Beavers, they're in beaver costumes. Genius,
There's
genius, right there.
hundreds of them,
There's hundreds of them.
literally.
They're
And
just
by the way, shout
costumes,
outs to
people
the
in
guy
costumes.
who's putting up all these alternates of the poster that are just parodies of like a billion things. My favorite
Yeah.
is the Pink Flamingos one, where it's Divine, but she's like the beaver.
I like the
That's
Vertigo
that's
one
adorable.
and the Freddy Got
Yeah,
Fingered one specifically.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
love it because it totally fits the humor of the movie too. Like it all like adds up. Mwah.
yeah. Good. Yeah, there's
Chef's
like a
kiss.
lot of
But
that.
see, it's kind of funny. I think this movie, at least the wide release, came at a really good time because you see here, um, obviously we're in the midst of the Coyote versus Acme debacle, where people are like, "Whoa, this would have been a perfect live action Looney Tunes movie." Damn you, Warner Brothers. David's last live is a David greedy bitch, all like that. And I agree with that. I really hope it gets released, even though we're in this weird edging stage where they might not, they might not.
Yeah,
I'll believe it when I see it at this point. But this, I'm really happy because the best way I can put this movie is if you imagine a Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner skit. I don't need to explain what that is. I'm sure you've seen at least one in your lifetime. You imagine those two opposing forces. Yet Wile E. Coyote is fighting a million Roadrunners on this big, big scale. And it's just this sort of tribute to Looney Tunes and similar slapstick comedies of the 40s and
yeah,
50s, yet also with the same sort of black and white silent film tributes from a guy like Chaplin or Buster Keaton, where it's that sort of flair. It really brings this unique energy I haven't seen from a movie like this in quite some time, but I think it's really neat. The presentation of the movie is so cool because it sort of eclipses the idea of being a parody and kind of just becomes the thing in a sense. Like it is so committed to that style. Like the only like words I guess but the words you hear in the beginning is the opening song that kind of sets things up, the Apple Farm, Applejack, it's a great
great
song,
song.
very toony at the time. Then after that, it's a straight silent comedy, completely um, barren as we follow the drunken Applejack salesman, and he's gotta defeat all the beavers to prove his worth. And it's just so funny because it starts out simple. He's just trying to find one, and he can't. That rapscallion. He tries to knock over it with some snow, and then that doesn't work. Tries to make it a fire, that doesn't work. He that silly little goose. And then by the end of the movie, you're in this like mine cart chase with a bunch of beavers in this big Eclipse warehouse, jumping from cart to cart as you're just running around, and it's so big and big. And the movie has such a good comedic pace to it, where I think a great part of a great comedy is you don't want to front loaded, I guess is to say. Your greatest jokes can't be in act one because if you begin with your funniest thing, then the rest of it just like, oh well that's just
Yeah, you're just
okay,
the whole
that's not
time you're just gonna
that's you
be
gotta
like,
it's
oh,
a
that's not as good as that joke in the earlier, you know?
yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's why a movie like Hundreds of Beavers is so well, because it starts out funny, because it has a great opening. I love that song, but it's great at that build because it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until you're at that end. And it's just this perfect crescendo in a way I love from comedy. In particular, that Looney Tunes influence you can see because if you go back and watch like of like Looney Tunes stuff, I've actually been doing that now. I've been in a bit of a Looney Tunes kick. The time of recording this, my profile picture is Daffy Duck. But point is, those old cartoons, they're not like the actual slapstick itself isn't like overly funny. It more so just came down to the deliveries of it and how it's animated. You watch a Wile E. Coyote cartoon, and it's not funny that he's getting hit. It's how he's getting hit and how he just slam and bam, and how a character like Daffy Duck will react to getting shot. It's not funny that he got shot. It's funny that he's a little little bitch about it. And this I think perfectly really carries that like spirit because the slapstick in this is just so funny because you have this nameless
Yeah.
guy trying to catch beavers who the well, obviously it's live action, so animation's not the same thing. But you get that idea. The design is perfect. You look at them and they're just these goofy ass. They're like not even beavers. They're men in suits just
That's
running
what
around.
makes this
Come on.
movie so funny to me because I feel like it's just such a funny idea to have like a comedy where just every animal is just like it's either some guy in a suit or it's like some funny puppet like the fish or like puppets and like the bees look like
Yeah,
something like that someone would make in like an arts and craft class or
yeah.
something like that and
But the
it's leads
fucking
to like
snowmen,
the
the
snow
snowmen are so
no, man,
funny.
it's so
I
funny.
love them.
Like the scene where just the it makes the premise of this movie better to me because the idea of a guy just like trapping a bunch of beavers just wouldn't be as funny if they weren't in these goofy ass costumes, and it just leads to such amazing slapstick comedy as a result. And like there's so many like great moments that kind of like accompany that. This movie has some great comedic timing. Like every time the guy just like randomly falls into the snow and then you just see like one of my favorite moments in the movie is the scene um where like one of the where like the guy prepared like one of the traps for the beavers and it's like a rope attached to like a boulder that's like keeping one of the beavers down and then next thing you know in the scene after that he's like oh shit and then the beaver just starts swinging the fucking wrecking ball thing at him. And that was like one of the funniest
Yeah,
jokes
yeah.
for me in the movie because not only was it like perfectly timed, but it was like the one time like he sweared on the whole thing and it was bleeped. So like it just like it's such
Yeah.
great timing and it just comes off as hilarious
Hmm.
watching this stupid
So
ass beaver
so
just
good.
like absolutely just swinging the heck out of this giant boulder at this guy. It's so funny. It's one of my
Yeah,
favorite jokes
yeah.
in the movie. Um
Oh, I love it. So good. One of my favorites. This is near the beginning, but I thought it was really funny because the guy is trying to be like he's in the snow, right? So he's like, all right, how am I gonna catch this damn thing? And at this point, he's fixated on the rabbit, like Jordan Peele's Us. So he's like coming up. He's like, all right, I'm gonna do this giant. He makes this giant carrot, and he's like, all right,
oh,
and
oh
then
yeah.
like the visual of it again is really funny. This is giant snow rabbit, but then like at the end, it doesn't even like really work, and this devolves into him like shirt off, just going insane in the snow as he just like trying to best these animals. It's so funny in that sense. It really just operates under the real rules of slapstick, and I think a really interesting way I haven't seen from stuff just in a while. I love the also I love how like it sort of even then it operates under these layers where you get this part of the rabbit is trapped in this sort of trap by one of the I guess raccoon, I guess. It's funny how there's like even like these little layers to that like whole thing. keeps going on. What a what a fun picture in that sense. Just so crazy. One of my favorite like visual gags this movie operates on there that it always such a funny thing when like a hole like when they have those holes in the ground and the main guy just randomly falls in them. It's such a simple thing, but the way those like parts are like I guess shot and the way it's presented in
Timed,
like a
yeah, like I
slapstick sense, it's
said.
really funny. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
like it feels like the
But
joke just hits
mm,
better because of its like amazing
yeah,
timing and the way it's like
I do think
presented
like on
through
that
visuals.
yeah on that visual level, it is also I think it strikes a balance where some parts I think purposely look cheap, like we were talking about the costumes. They're like little
Yeah.
like not exactly best looking. But um also it's not cheap as in haha look at how stupid our movie looks. It's also still just like committed to it, combining like I said the it's sort of just a combination of a bunch of things. But you get that like sort of 1920s Charlie Chaplin spirit combined with the essence of theatrical Looney Tunes. And also it's all mixed into this like weird morphed modern I guess internet humor lens where it has this real shit posty vibe to it as it goes on. It's like I haven't really seen anything that combines these types just so efficiently. It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's
Yeah, there's like
it's
so many
quite
fun
neat.
moments, and I do just like the character focus stuff in this movie. Like it focuses on this one guy, and we see him like you really get swept into his journey to take down like these beavers and just kind of survive in this new setting he's been thrust into, only to like having to catch hundreds of beavers so he can date this date this like the merchant's
He's got to get
daughter.
his reputation back.
Yeah, and
He's
it's
got to
like
be
you
the
get like
cool
swept up
guy.
into this journey, like you start marking the different different places, different specific traps. Like, oh, this is where the wolf cave is. This is where this one trap is. This is where the fire stuff is. It's like you really get to follow
Yeah,
this character while as he like develops. Throughout the story. It's
definitely.
endearing in that way. It almost feels like it's like an
Mhm.
almost like a video game type structure. Like sometimes he goes to the shop to purchase things, then he goes to this place, he's like wandering around this game map. It's
Yeah.
kind of like a cool detail, but it's
Mm.
adapted into film
Well,
form
see,
pretty
I thought of
well.
the video game thing when by a certain point they have a tally of when all the animals are dying.
Oh
Like,
yeah, that
nope.
too. Like they're
Like the
using it
yeah,
as like currency. Yeah. That's a nice
yeah.
detail.
That's fun. I like
I
how that.
also I want to bring this up. So last episode we talked about like Kung Fu Hustle and how that film is like a fun comedy that's low budget. And I feel like after watching both of those films, I both that and this movie, I feel like I realized that kind of like when you have a low budget movie, making a comedy out of it is probably one of the best things you could do because if you want to have like some low budget visuals, they feel more intentional because the movie has like more of a comedic tone, so it feels like the movie is laughing with you and not and you're not laughing at it. It's
Yeah, no,
like
that's a perfect descriptor actually. That's why you often find the most low budget movies they either do go in a comedic direction or are inherently, very simple. Because doing an action thing on a low budget, you can make it work, but if you have like a cheesy effect, I think it really takes away unless you're
yeah.
tongue in cheek with it, like this movie is. And
Hmm.
I think that's it's all a pretty fun in that respect. I don't know the exact budget, but I think it has to be at the very least a certain amount because some of it looks cheap, but obviously I think the whole like sets and at least the style has to at least be a good view compared to what it could be. Like I don't know those beavers. Again, I think it's like I don't know if it was purposefully cheap. You know what I mean? Like you look at all those beaver suits and it's like it's funny because they look goofy. They are not actually beavers, but also it's like well, there was probably a bunch of effort getting all those costumes, trying to integrate them into like the world, having it all intertwined with like the sets and stuff. It's
Yeah.
kind of it's a balance of both, I guess, in a way. I think is quite neat. And oh my God, I just the costume. This is another thing that just makes it so funny. I love whenever they kill one of them and have those fucking cartoon X's over their face.
Yeah, that never
It's
gets
just like
old. I love how
so
just
stupid.
I don't know, it just like
Like
the scenes where the guy just fucking tackles the beavers are so funny. Like and then just like the premise of someone just capturing a bunch of beavers is just like doesn't sound fun on paper, but when you just have these costumes, it's like hilarious. Like
mhm.
every character, every like big animal like that is just some guy in a costume. And then there's like the horse. The horse is just so obviously two guys in a costume, and they even make a joke about how
Yeah,
obvious it
exactly.
is. It's hilarious. It definitely
Yeah.
shows that this is like a zany like type of odd comedy,
Mhm.
like with nonsense slapstick that works really well. It's
Mhm.
it's just fun in that way. It's consistently entertaining. Like I never was not enjoying it. I was always like
No,
interested to
no.
see what joke they were gonna think of next, like some creative contraption that the main character was gonna build. Like all the stuff he does with like the big fans and whatnot, and how he uses it to just kill a shit ton of beavers is hilarious and like creative. Like he
Mm.
starts like
Yeah.
using
No, I
them to
love
just
the
like make like this heart
I
shape
love
of
how
the
that
different
like
fans.
third act, I guess, pays off because they spend so much of the first bit being like, man, this guy's pathetic. He's not getting any kills. These rabbits, nah. Those beavers, ain't no way, girl. You are not slaying. But and then you get that like second, like that last, I think by the hour mark, I don't know, I wasn't paying it like as track. But by that like certain chunk, it's like it goes the complete opposite direction where it's kind of satisfying in that video game way as you sort of made that comparison where he's just knocking out kills like bam, 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 bam. And it's oddly really satisfying to the counter go down as it happens. It's like, yeah, he really is getting those rabbits and beavers and
Hmm.
all of them. And then eventually, of course, this leads to the retaliation that I would call the best bit in the movie as it like amps up. I love how much that climax looks with the whole fortress of all like the beavers made out of wood and everything, and how
Yeah,
that
they
like
like
sort
turn into this
of leads.
giant like mech thing and then just chase after him, and then it's just
Yeah, yeah.
ridiculous. You get the hundreds of beavers just chasing after him. He goes down his sled and he tries to like just it's just like it's hilarious. In the whole climax, like you said, the chase scene when he enters the big beaver factory and helps to getting all his corpses back, I guess. And then like it's just such a creative like sequence. Like it looks stupid sometimes,
Yeah.
but it seems like it's like it really adds to the comedy and it just makes it
Mhm.
more entertaining.
I love the part where the one guy, um, he knocks one of the beavers like heads off, and because of the visual of it, it's just so like silly. Like, dude, what do you? Obviously, it's like fits the whole movie, but at that point during the climax, it's like it just fits so well, and like it's a just the one is a just tropey cartoon way where he tries to disguise himself, and then he's like uh-oh. And I love that in the sense they're just so played up and tropey in that sense that it kind of works
Yeah.
the other way. And just yeah, oh yeah, oh fuck god, it's so fucking funny when he pulls the beaver off and you just see this fucking miniature ass prop skeleton. Like, come on,
Oh
dog. What
yeah,
are you doing?
that
So
was
it's
great.
so funny.
I also
Yeah.
like all the
But I
scenes
loved
with
it.
like he meets this other fur trapper who's basically like Santa Claus, and then he just kind of like chills with him, learning from him, and then all his dogs get killed one by like this gang of wolves, and there's just something really funny of how they present this. Like all the dogs are like playing cards at night, and then they all just like get dragged away, and it's all just really goofy and campy in that way. with how like seeing all these dogs get picked off one by one like a horror movie, and then you just see these big ass wolf costumes, and then there's this big like chase scene, and there's this sad death of the Santa Claus for a trapper. It's very funny.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely, just all around. Mm, There's really just so many great bits, top to bottom. I thought were like just really funny. They don't get a lot, but I think the other human characters is like they're not given like much depth, but I like them that really like I guess sort of enhances that like that world, I guess, of the silent movie type thing, I guess is to say.
Yeah,
I don't know, they
expands
get
it a
like
bit more.
just good little bits at the side. They don't need that much, but it all fits into place quite well.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's so many fun bits. I
Yeah, just like seeing him
mm,
just wander the place and just kind of seeing like I like the fucking like detective beaver, I guess, just kind of trying to investigate, and then he sees like these big landmarks, and he
yeah.
thinks that he was just creating these Frankenstein ass beavers when it turns out the beavers just landed like and just were just like landed in really weird like places with how he was like crafting the contraptions, and it's like it's funny. And also the entire court scene is just good.
Mhm.
I like how he's just assigned this random beaver lawyer and stuff, and how it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, and it's just funny. It's just funny because of the costumes, and then there's the scene where he's about to get executed, and then like he just has to have this like epic bar fight with all the beavers, and it's just hilarious. Just a lot of great physical comedy in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a random note, but I'm just looking for my like things on this. I don't know if you'd know this, Anthony, but I swear to God, it's not him for obvious reasons. But I swear to God, one of the main like humans. I like the at the shop when the he's learning the conversions of like what each weapon can kill each like type of animal. He's looking at the prices. I swear to God, the guy at that shop, he looks like Roger Bumpus. Is that just me? I swear to God, I was thinking about this. He looks like the Squidward's voice actor, IRL. I don't know if you noticed that. That is a
Eh,
weird thing
I don't
I
know.
thought of.
I don't really see it
I
if
don't
I'm
know.
being honest.
I could see. I don't know if that's just me, but I swear to God, I saw something. Maybe just the face. I maybe just the face, but I like that. That is another good scene though. I like the. I even like the little like I guess 2D drawings. I guess when you get the little like bits and pieces of the beavers. It's a simplistic, cute little style. And when they're talking about like the bait and all that stuff, really really cool movie in that respects too. But big fan, um,
Yeah, I like
all around.
uh another joke I like is just the whole thing with the weird ass gag of like the merchant wanting to propose to the fur trapper. I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah, yeah, that was
It's cheesy
another
in
good bit.
some way, you know. Fuck, dropped something.
Definitely, but it fits.
Yeah,
So oddly, I think another like good movie in terms of like atmosphere, I guess is to say. I've thought about the style a lot, so I won't like bear repeating there. But I think the setting was another really good choice because it really does fit that tribute to again silent film and Looney Tunes sort of combined. Because obviously it's a classic Looney Tunes sort of setting to put the characters in. Elmer Fudd's like be very quiet. I'm a hunting rabbits. And he walks around and he's in the forest. And Bug's like, nah, what's up, Doc? And they're in like it's the random forest setting they have that. There's famously the hunting season trilogy, which I would really recommend if you're going to watch any classic Looney Tunes. Anyone who watches that's my plug of the day. Then there's stuff like that. And on the silent film side, there's stuff like, I think the biggest example off the top is Charlie Chaplin's The Gold Rush, that is in this very sort of wintry sort of setting where it's in that like sort of you and if you go to other stuff, I think the having a sort of slapstick sort of thing it really like fits in that forest type thing. It's like very natural. It makes sense. Animals are there. It's a natural progression of things, and I really do like how invested it gets you with that because it has a great setting, and from there, just the atmosphere of it, like the cold, cold snow, cause all these big ass trees, and like you really don't know the scope of the location, but it really does feel like a lot for what's just your dumb comedy movie. I think that's another great aspect they nailed. It was awesome. Loved Hundreds of Beavers, like
Yeah.
hundreds of peakers. Am I
Hmm.
right?
I like
Oh,
some other
oozing.
jokes I thought were pretty funny is the scene when the main guy is just like following the footsteps and then he sees like the entire like life story of two beavers getting married and stuff like that and then die. I thought that was funny,
Hmm.
like in terms of how they like showed that visually. In general, this movie like is probably similar to a lot of the early Looney Tunes shorts. It's just kind of like a master of showing visual slapstick comedy, with a lot of the time doing it without a word, because there's like no dialogue in this movie, which is
Hmm.
a cool thing about it and like enhances the visual comedy that is done really well. I also like how I just like every
E.
scene where he's like just one scene where he's like trying to lure one of the beavers and he like places an apple on this trap and then one of them just gets like cartoonishly kicked on the head and then runs away and then he ends up like it's like a lot of the stuff I like from like people might like from early Looney Tunes is present here. Yeah, I feel like it's like almost
Definitely.
as funnier because of the costumes that really add to it and the visuals of it
Mm.
all.
I can definitely see that. If it's anything, I think this movie does a good job of getting you to want to watch stuff like that. Because I think after watching this movie, put on a bunch of Looney Tunes stuff, specifically Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner stuff. That's my other plug of the day. If you have not watched the classic like Chuck Jones Wile E. Coyote shorts, I recommend them because it's honestly just it's prime slapstick. You don't get better than like that simple character dynamics, how it's just so well animated for the time. Looney Tunes in general, they were just the masters of their domain in the 40s and 50s. But it really is such a loving tribute. And like I said with the Coyote versus Acme thing, for people who are unsatisfied with the fact that we haven't had like a good Looney Tunes movie in forever, except for bits of back in action that are prime Looney Tunes. If you ignore that, we haven't really had a great thing in a while. And the Space Jams are like I like Space Jam 1, but it's still Space Jam, It's not really what people like out of the Looney Tunes. So just getting something like this, it's like mwah, so so happy this exists, so happy we can get something of this vein. I feel we haven't gotten a movie, so at least I can you think of a like not even just a studio comedy because we still get those even if they're less popular. I really can't think of anything that goes in that like same sort of direction where I don't know, slapstick ain't mainstream anymore. And the stuff we are getting with characters like fucking Bugs Bunny or Tom and Jerry or the masters of their domain, they're not focused on anymore. Or they're messed up. Like what? Tom and Jerry, one of the kings of slapstick. You got Tom and Jerry 2021. That's probably gonna be pulled off HBO Max. Like, come on. Point is, slapstick is dying, and I think Hundreds of Beavers is a good example as to why I think this stuff is still it still works. And there's a reason the fucking Chaplin Buster Keaton comedies were in the 20s and they still last. It's a good medium. People love it. And I hope Hundreds of Beavers spreads around a little more because it is awesome. And we need more stuff like it.
Yeah.
That's my take of the day. Um,
Yeah.
hope you
I guess
hope
I'll
you
like
agree.
list a couple other like minor notes I have about it.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here.
Hmm.
I like the scene where like there's where he's like being chased by the wolves and then he sneezes an icicle and then that kills one of them. I like how he uses that. In
Mhm.
general, he uses
Yeah.
like parts of the environment well, like when he discovers like the holes and how it's like and like the rabbit holes and like how he uses that to plan traps and whatnot. He uses that to his advantage. Same with like the fucking woodpecker gag every time he does a whistle. Uh and I also like how just I also just like the image of the dogs just dragging other animals in
Mhm.
costumes, like the beaver. I think that's another thing why I find the fur trapper and the main guy's shenanigans so funny. Yeah.
Yeah,
I really
yeah,
like the
definitely.
opening, like 2D thing, like the picture book type stuff. That's cool.
Oh,
Um,
it's so good. The song is just great.
yeah.
Mwah.
Gets you into
And
the
really,
spirit of
and the
this movie.
credits and everything really does get you into that mindset so well. The thing. You really don't see anything like this. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I definitely need to
Fantastic.
rewatch this movie because, like, man, I will definitely at some point just to like see some other jokes and
It does
deadpan.
seem like it's built for rewatchability because it is one of those where, like I've talked about it, I talk about it with comedies all the time on Campy Cast because fucking if I don't think a good comedy is one of my like all timers. But a movie like Hundreds of Beavers is one of those that's built for that sense of if you watch it a bunch of times, you'll catch some gags you missed or catch some jokes you overlook because there's another one on the way. You know, it's so it's just so cool. I I I really really loved Hundreds of Beavers. That's the take of the day. Uh, if you're watching this out of obligation, go watch it. If you haven't seen the movie, go
Yeah.
do it. It deserves the support.
Uh,
It's you don't even have to pirate it. I think Anthony watched it on like Prime Canada or something.
no, that's
I'm
not
sure we
really
got
how
some
I watched it
Canadians in the.
actually. I just
Oh,
pirated
did you
it.
not?
I just know that it's on
Oh,
Prime
I
Video.
yeah, okay. Well, see, there you go. Now it's there. Damn it! Give it a look. You can spare a little. I pirated it, but someone will give it some support. It'll gain traction.
Yeah.
Hundreds of I can feel it. It's gonna do it. You
Yeah.
go, girl. Play queen. Yas. Oh,
Hmm.
did I say that out loud? Whoops. Yeah.
Yeah. Um so yeah, I definitely agree with you with that. I also like how just uh just like the entire climax, like we said, it's just like an amazing way to end things when the goofiness just amps up and the stakes are high with all the beavers just uniting. And also the way the beavers like die is kind of funny. Like it was
Yeah.
like
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
yeah. Um
Mm.
Man, there's so much to like about this. I don't know. I like the scene where the main guy just lets the rocket go off, and then just one of the beavers just face palms. That's funny. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know. That's like mostly it. I might be missing stuff. It's honestly just like I was so wrapped into it, and I tried my best to take notes as for like as many specific jokes and details as I could. But I feel like as a result, I'll probably notice even more on rewatch. But like for
Mhm.
memory, and there was like a ton of different moments that were just hilarious that I probably forgot to mention, but I tried to mention as much as I could remember and
Mm.
count
Yeah, I
get
don't
from
take
my
notes for
notes.
this podcast because writing things down while watching a movie is for nerds. But
Wow.
yeah,
I only do it because, like, I don't know, sometimes I barely write. I only do it just to point out specific details to have a more in-depth
no,
discussion
it makes
that way.
sense. But
Um,
mm,
Sometimes I just forget about doing it. Like, I don't know. I think it's like a interesting thing to do to point out specific stuff. But
yeah, no, I got you. I got you.
yeah, I sometimes like
Fully.
stop doing it though because I don't want it to subtract from my enjoyment or anything, which it
Yeah, no,
usually
I
never
get you. I
does.
get you.
But yeah, to conclude, great movie. Highly recommend you check it out.
Def,
I guess we can get
def, def.
into our ratings now. I'm gonna give this a 9 out of 10. Great movie.
I will go a firm, high nine on this one.
Yeah,
I think it would be quite quite a fun one. I could even see it getting higher if I do rewatch it, which I'm sure will be sometime because it deserves that damn treatment. Hundreds of Beavers,
Yes, it does.
peak movie. I'd say it's the best of this year, but it's not from this year. So take that, suckers. Ba-bow. It's a 2022 movie. We'll bring it back to Marcel like debates. Ayo. Moving forward. Our good friend Knuckles the Echidna got to star in a spin-off about Wade Whipple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into
Knuckles just
Knuckles.
dropped on Paramount Plus yesterday at the time of recording this.
Yeah,
And
and we
it
already
was
watched the
quite the
full thing.
ride, but not in the way I expected. Now, for some context, I'm a bit of a Sonic head. If I said this in the Sonic Forces episode, who cares? Because no one watched, and I don't. I forget what I said. But point is, I'm a little bit above a casual Sonic fan. I've played a very good handful. I haven't played everything, but I'm familiar with the Hedgehog. I know my lore. I didn't watch all of Alice Mark Sonic content for nothing. I'm an expert, okay? I'm like I watch my Cyber Shell. I know my Sonic lore. And yeah, I've kept up with the Hedgehog. He's a very inconsistent franchise, but there's a draw. And you know when he peaks, he peaks. When he misses, he makes like fucking Sonic Heroes or Adventure 2, some mid-ass games. But aside from the games, it's not about the games. The Sonic movies, they happened
They're
just now,
fun.
and I like the Sonic movies. One is mid as hell, but I saw it. It was
We'll
the
talk
last
more
movie I
about
saw
that
before
like
COVID.
another
That was
day. The
cool.
reason
It was fun.
the
Yeah.
reason we didn't like
Yeah.
group this with the other Sonic movies is I just feel like this would be more of like a weird detour from the main
Well,
three. We'll
actually,
do it
Anthony,
when the all three
you
comes
know,
out.
Anthony,
But
now thinking
yeah.
about it, it would be pretty fucking funny if we could do a campy cast called Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Like it's like the game. It's like the Sega
Oh,
Genesis game. The lock on cartridge, like where you put them together. That'd be pretty funny. But that I'd rather do it with this. Point is, Sonic movies, like my good friend Anthony here said, we will be covering another day. But I guess my short is, I like them. One is mid as hell, but I have some fond memories of the time. Very distinct era in 2020 when it dropped. Sonic 2 has a terrible B plot and some things that make zero sense. But that did not matter to me when I stepped out of that theater in 2022, coked out of my mind as I was like, did they do that? Did Sonic do that high? Was my boy Shadow the Hedgehog teased? It did not matter because I loved that movie and it brought some childlike wonder into my soul. So thank you, Sonic 2. That's all I will say before I talk about how goated it is in December when the Campy cast on the Sonic movies comes out. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, shameless plug. But Knuckles, that the point is, all that got me excited for Knuckles because, like, whoa, what's he doing here? Knuckles show? Is there going to be ties to some of his lore? Maybe some of Sonic Adventures? Maybe a spread of SA2 in there? Some interesting depth to give to Idris Elba's unique portrayal of the character. Um, admittedly,
not
I
really.
think maybe I should have thought a little different about that, considering that this is the Sonic movie universe that often will put movie first Sonic references in the background. Like, oh, look, they were like, oh my god, this movie has so many Sonic references. And the references, Hilltop is on, like, a street sign.
Wow.
But yeah,
The town is
Knuckles
called
was
Green
ass,
Hills.
dogs.
Haha.
This was so bad,
Yeah,
honestly.
this was
I was not. They did not cook. Like,
yeah, this
call me
was
Mr. White
not
because they
very good. Like a lot of
were.
people
But
have been
I
like,
liked it. It just clear it so lost its momentum as it devolved and degraded, and by the end of it, it's sort of just this husk where I'm looking at it and I'm like, come on, dogs. Come on, you did
yeah,
not cook. And the reason is actually pretty simple. because if you notice, you look at the director's list. My boy Jeff Fowler, my goat, he only did episode one of the Knuckles show before handing it off to some randos who probably directed like one toothpaste commercial and like a school assembly before getting to work on the Knuckles show. No diss to them. You can clearly tell Fowler's vision, I guess you can call it, for these Sonic stuff. It certainly decreases after a while. Um, and I think the show is almost a perfect downward a slope where
Almost.
it's like episode
Except with
one
episode
is
4, which we'll get to
solid,
soon.
two is okay, three teeters, four is dog shit, and five and six are
Amen.
better. But by this point, I think the show was not salvageable. So I'm just sitting there like, what is Bloods doing? Are they cooking? Are they cooking?
All right.
Like usual, we do shows. I think we will be going episode by episode. Are you okay with that, Anthony?
Yeah, I'm fine with that, I guess. I feel like unless it's like not unless it's like a long show, I guess. But in this case, since there's only 6 episodes, I think it is appropriate to do it that way, and there's one
Yeah, yeah.
continuous story.
Okay. So we
But
will take it out from the top, and I will be calling these episode one to six because I didn't remember the titles and they were too wordy for me. Episode one of the Knuckle Show. I like this one a lot. It feels very close to the spirit of what the Sonic movies were laying down. Again, probably because Fowler was on board. But there were a lot of little bits of this one I thought were cute and I really liked. I honestly am really into Idris Elba's portrayal of Knuckles because,
damn, I,
okay, here's the thing. Knuckles was a character I think I gravitated towards when I first liked Sonic. Probably for superficial reasons. I think I was literally like, my favorite color is red because I'm 8 and
really,
Knuckles is red. So I like him. It was very superficial,
that's
admittedly.
kind of
But
funny.
it was cool. He had fists. He punched Supersonic and knocked the Chaos Emeralds out of him in Sonic 3. He was a badass. But the last like decade or so, I believe, of Sonic has really messed up Knuckles in the sense where they either underuse him or they just make him a dope. Like in something like a Lost World is a big example where he's just in the background the entire time. Forces, he's a complete dope. Uh, and
Everyone's
Sonic
kind of a
Boom,
dope in
okay,
forces,
okay,
to be fair.
Sonic Boom is funny, but admittedly, he's just kind of he's purposefully dumb in that. But that fits Sonic Boom. But point is, they don't treat him very like seriously most of the time. Although he does get the iconic line, you know, Amy, whenever someone calls attention to the breaking of gender rules, it ultimately undermines the concept of gender equality
By
by
implying that
implying this is
this
an
is the
exception
exception
and
and
not the
not the
status
status
quo.
quo. Such an iconic line right
Exactly, it's
there.
classic. The point is, Knuckles has been kind of bossed around ever since. I'll rough it and say post Adventure 2, because Adventure 2 is the last time they actually did something with his backstory. Because in Sonic Heroes, he's Knuckles, he just shows up with Tails, and they're like, all right, we're going, guys. And it's like, well, Knuckles, don't you got to guard the Master Emerald? It's your whole thing. And then the Master Emerald was never mentioned in a mainline Sonic game again.
Mm,
That's fun.
yeah.
But, point is, this show actually does something cool with him and his backstory and has a unique spin on him that I really like. He's still more jokey in that sort of boom sense, but I think it more so just comes from him being wise and stoic and not understanding the ways of Earth in a way I found really fun. I love the little part where he traps that guy at the beginning, and Maddie's gotta kind of justify the whole thing. I love his obsession with Cool Ranch Doritos. Knuckles is
I
literally
love
me.
Cool
I
Ranch
too love Cool Ranch
Doritos.
Doritos. Exactly, I love him. Knuckles gets me on a deep
Yeah,
spiritual
even though
level.
I'm more of a
And I think there's
nacho
some
cheese
great.
guy, but still good.
Exactly. And this is the only episode with Sonic and Tails, but probably for budgetary reasons they couldn't get Ben
Also,
Schwartz.
the same one with
But
like since episode one's the only with Jeff Fowler. Interesting coincidence there. Maybe that had something to do with it.
yeah,
Who
yeah,
knows?
notice it's the best one. I
Yeah, I
wonder
wanna
why.
to say
Yeah,
about
no,
like
it's fun.
that. It's like this one definitely has like the same vibe for the first two Sonic movies. Like it introduces Knuckles, shows his like that he's kind of having a trouble adapting to the Earth
Yeah.
setting, and now he's kind of like it seems
It's
like
sort
he's
of neat. I
starting
kind of
like
like how it it sort of parallels Sonic 2 in that sense, where Sonic has similar troubles at the beginning, but
Yeah.
now Sonic, we know he's had like a couple years on his belt. He's a little more competent, and it makes sense because Sonic was going well. It makes sense parallel-wise because Sonic in the first movie we see is so equipped with like watching pop culture and that stuff, so he gets it. Knuckles comes from the fucking echidnas who don't know any of that stuff. So it makes sense, and there are great bits with it. I love the part where Knuckles is trying to be like, where he's told, all right, Knuckles, you gotta act a little more normal. You can't be doing all this shit. And he comes out with this chair that just mashed together
Yeah, and he
a bunch
destroyed
of
like the
random
car
shit.
for that.
It's very funny, honestly. I really like that bit a lot. It was
Yeah, I
great.
just like
But
enjoy Knuckles. Not only does it definitely feel like Idris Elba is having a great time voicing him, and he clearly
oh,
enjoys
definitely.
playing the character, but there's just a lot of
Yeah.
charm to his like interactions with like the
Yeah.
environment, and he's just like a fun character, you know? He's got a fun
Oh,
personality
that yeah,
and
definitely.
like
I think it and
yeah.
just the yeah. I like him a lot more than the past couple Knuckles, as I've said. And I think that Idris Elba has this good twist where he is funny, he's great for jokes, but he is ultimately they do well in Sonic 2 they do interesting stuff. Here they kind of what they do with Knuckles here is great. They just like usage wise, but we'll get into that. We'll get into that. TLDR, Knuckles is great. I'm glad Idris Elba is a celebrity voice that fits the
Yeah,
character and
also
has
I'm
a good
happy they
spin
got
on
him
it.
back for this
And
series because if they had to recast him
yeah,
like they
it
do
would
with
have
the
been it would
spin-off
have been bad
show,
if they
that
did
would have
like an
been
Idris impersonator
yeah.
or something.
Yeah, because I
We could
remember,
definitely
I
tell,
think
but
it was like this Sonic like spin-off short that I watched a while back. I think they had to like recast I think like the actors who
was it
played
like the
Tails
drone
and
short
Knuckles.
after
Yeah, it was the
Sonic 2?
drone thing, I'm pretty sure. And they had to like
Yeah, I never
recast
watched that, but
Knuckles,
I
and he
think I
sounded
heard it
like
was a little
completely different.
different.
Also, I don't know if it's just me, but I found the dialogue kind of funny in that short. But like, I swear, Knuckles' dialogue sounded like it was from a Sonic the Hedgehog McDonald's commercial. I don't know if it was just me.
Mm,
I don't know if it was just me, but
maybe,
like,
maybe.
yeah. Anyways, I'm happy they got Idris Elba back for this. They got like most of the
Yeah.
cast back. Like they got
Great
the actor who
Knuckles, at least
played
from what I've
Sonic
seen.
and
The best of yeah,
Tails
yeah.
to get
Honestly,
the
the
best
best
of
Knuckles in
actors.
a mainline game since the early 2000s. Unless Sonic Frontiers did something good with him, but I
It
never finished that
did.
game because it's boring as shit.
I'm gonna
Woo,
talk if I
yeah.
talk about that.
But
I don't even really remember much. I remember it being kind of lame though. Like it's nothing noteworthy at all. The game is kind of it's
uh,
just so
I assume he
aggressively
doesn't get
animated.
like any
Not
characterization
really. It's
bits in
really
that
nothing
one.
special if I'm being
Okay.
honest. It's just very
Yeah.
typical. I don't remember much about it though, to be fair, so I'm
Mm,
not like overly qualified to
sad,
talk about it,
truly.
I'd say. So, yeah, I'm just like I enjoy it, you know. I like how they introduce like the chief who's like from the games and like the TV show. The chief's played by like Christopher Lloyd. I don't know how to pronounce his name properly. I know I don't want to sound
Yeah, it's like a
stupid.
big long one.
Big
I
old stupid
recognized
name.
him as a Sonic Adventure head. I wish the show did more with him, but I do like his scene here where after Knuckles is grounded, he comes out and is like, Knuckles, you gotta do your thing, girl, Slay Queen.
Please
But
stop
for
saying
real though,
that.
I do think he's quite a fun addition for his little bit there. And from here is when the Knuckles show you could argue descends into one might call it madness, as the focus slightly turns from our iconic echidna to a certain character who rhymes with the most racist character of 2023. We, of course, are talking about the one, the only. Let's give it up for my boy Wade Whipple, baby. Woo,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Wade. Wade is here in Knuckles.
I enjoyed
And
him
see,
in the
I
first
remembered
two
him from
Sonic
little
movies
bits. He
enough.
gets a little bit in Sonic 1, where he plays out Tom, who's not in this show, by the way. They like
They
find an
couldn't get
excuse to
James
write him out of it.
Marsden back probably.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously that's why, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah, they
So
do
they
the
couldn't get
typical
Mars,
excuse. He's out of town. Yeah, they do that typical
like, I was,
excuse.
yeah, okay, buddy, yeah. But point is, there's that, and then in Sonic 2, he gets a little bit, which I think is funny. He like make a joke about him being pathetic, but there's some good bits there. But in this, our boy Wade, I think the writers they love Wade, or at least someone does. I'm not sure who at Paramount
I,
has this
I think
Wade
the
excitement in
writers
their system.
of this show definitely like Wade more than the people who actually watched it, because some people like hate
They
how
people
the
like
series
Wade a little
focused on
more
him.
than they should, which is quite
Yeah,
interesting.
because in
But
I do like I like the idea of Knuckles kind of like mentoring him in some way, you know, like he was kicked off a
yeah,
bowling tournament because yeah, and then Knuckles is trying to like help him, and then they go on this like they go on this journey together, and it's like it's a nice
mm.
setup for a show. It could lead to some interesting
Can I just
character
say that I
interactions
thought
between them.
the bowling thing was not gonna be like a part of the. I thought it was gonna be a first episode thing, but then I kept going. I was like, oh,
Yeah, the show really likes bowling.
all right, Doc. Well, I love bowling, honestly. I think it's very
Bowling's a
fun.
fun sport.
Uh,
I just feel
this is
like
some
I don't know if
professional.
it's the most
Mm,
entertaining
I
idea
know.
to make a big part of the Knuckles show relating to bowling, but
No, no, definitely not.
yeah,
But I think that the people were not huge on Wade, and I get why. I don't think in a show advertised as Knuckles, and it's like Knuckles is a character that has so much you can pull from in like so many aspects. There's a reason Ken Penders wrote like years of fan fiction on this guy because he's awesome. He's Knuckles. He got so much you can pull from. And the show chooses not to pull from a lot of that, instead does Wade hijinks. Although I will say, on a basis, I think it makes sense because Knuckles as a character, I think, is someone who you're gonna need a nice force to play off of to have a good sort of character dynamic. Knuckles needs his straight man, I guess is to say, in this show, where
yeah, he's like a
Idris
fun
plays him a little more
character for him to play
centrally.
off of, and there
Yeah,
are some fun
yeah.
interactions between them. Like I enjoyed the scene when Knuckles enters his house in the first place. I kind of like how the scene with
I
the
like
both
it
of
when
them
he
at the
looks.
bowling alley. What would you
He's
say?
he's so silly. Above a bowling alley and below another bowling
Hmm.
alley. But that's fun. They have initial good little scene. I will say, for me, the episode it depletes a wee bit when we get to the last chunk because it starts to. But this is when we get a little tease of the problems of the Knuckles show to come as the actual bowling bits are fine. There's some good I there's some good observational humor as there's like, oh, look at Knuckles. He doesn't get bowling. It's cute. Look at him. He's an adorable little guy, that rapscallion. But after that, we get the introduction to the villains of this show, who I think are
Mm, not
say
very good.
underdeveloped would be a nice
Definitely.
way of putting
They're not in the series
it.
that much. Don't really do much. Like in this first episode, we got like, I mean, they're kind of more of the henchmen for the main villain. And don't get me started on the main villain. We'll talk more about him when we get to the
Oh,
finale. But like, it's just he's not
yikes.
very good. We'll say that right now. But basically, it's just I
Yeah.
don't know. They're just kind of thrown in here, and they're established here, but going back a bit to that scene with Knuckles and Wade at the bowling alley, I like the scene when Wade kind of talks about, you know, his stuff with his dad. At first, it seemed like it was going to be like kind of a nice start of them like growing a connection, you know, kind of like the stuff with Tom and Sonic in the first movie. Felt like it was going to have some of that same charm in some way. But except I might
Yeah,
even
yeah.
like it more because you know what, I like Knuckles as a character, and I feel like I could
I
see this
love
dynamic
Knuckles.
working well. And in some cases, it
Hmm.
does. And I guess I guess we could lead into the second episode, which, you know, I also kind of enjoy, if I'm being honest. It's like, it's,
Well, I like all the episodes. You can't say that. But episode 2, this is, I think, I still like it, but there are some things that I think teeter a little bit. First of all, this is when we get the initial intro which I like. I like the Knuckles
The
intro a
intro's
lot.
good. Yeah, I
There's some
like the
cute
2D
2D.
artwork.
It's very nice looking, nice sketches. I like the visual of him jumping from DVD to DVD.
That's
It's
nice. Yeah,
fun. Also, Knuckles wears the hat in it, and I think it's really funny that the Sonic OVA is largely unremembered for its weird additions to the lore and the fucking owl man that Sonic runs with. The most important thing that OVA does is it gives Knuckles a hat. So
yeah, that's cool.
good for it, I guess. Cool. But yeah, episode 2 opens with a clip from Michael Bay's Bad Boys and it peaks from there. Sorry to say. Uh, but for real though, this episode's all right. I'm not into some of it. We get more of the antagonists, and you can kind of tell by this point they're just kind of underdeveloped and don't got as fun of a dynamic. I think it ties gun into it. You know, that's one of the
That's
only Sonic
interesting.
lore things that the show actually kind of keeps. So it's like gun from Sonic Adventure 2. I love gun. More than Sonic Adventure 2. But yeah, I don't know the actual the bits inside the house. They're okay. Um, I was mainly pissed off when they pulled out the I need a hero. I'm pulling out for a hero till the morning light because it's like first of all the song has been greatly overused in this time. Shrek 2 did it peak. Regular show did it peak with Excellent, one of the only peak things that show did. And these past couple of years, like, just stop it, man. Shazam 2, you did not need it. Mario movie, you especially did not fucking need it.
Yeah,
Fuck the Mario movie. All my homies hate the Mario movie. But this, especially, just like, come on. It just felt so like tacked on, especially normally I don't complain about this with the Sonic movies, but in this instance it really made me mad because I feel like there were so many moments here where you could have swapped it out from a prime song from one of Knuckles' eras and it would have been funnier. Like or like not funnier, like more fitting. Like imagine in that I Need a Hero scene, they play out like they go brah da na 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 and they start playing Knuckles' theme from Sonic Adventure. Here I come, rougher than the rest of them. The rest of them, they ain't tougher than you know that song. It's classic,
yeah.
and they could have brought that in, but instead they used the boring, generic one. And I was not a fan of that. That was my personal grievance. The rest of episode 2 is all right though. I like that stupid bit where Wade's trying to hide. Like when he fits in with all the hats, but the disguise didn't work.
I
What a goofball he is.
Yeah, I
And
enjoyed this one. I like the idea of Wade trying to be he's kind of like an idiot, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed at times, but he's like he still has like good intent and he's trying to save Knuckles. It's a fun dynamic, and I feel like I would enjoy this more if this was like the main Wade centric episode. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
well, anything this is
but I enjoy it still
this
regardless.
anything this is the one of the less Wade ones. Yeah, that's funny. But there's some good bits in this one, I suppose. I like the part where Knuckles glides because I always liked it when Knuckles did that. I
Yeah, it
think
was
it
a
was that's what
nice
makes him fun to
detail.
play as actually. Because see, Tails he can fly, but no Knuckles he's cool. He glides, and that's why he's awesome and literally me like it goes boom. But no, it's I think they do a nice bonding bit between Knuckles and Wade out of that. And it's funny, Knuckles gliding is one of the only pieces of Knuckles things this thing really represents in some
Yeah, I also was kind
detail.
of like hoping there was like more, like you said, more bit of music
Yeah.
from the games that reflected him a bit more. Like I was hoping there'd be more of that. Like it's mainly just like I swear it's like the gliding and the hat almost. That's like the main thing that's from those
Yeah, yeah.
games.
Definitely, definitely. Got any more thoughts on
Not
episode
really.
2,
I just
Anthony?
enjoy it. I like the
Yeah.
first one definitely more, but this is like a close second in terms of my favorite episode of the series.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Episode 3 is hold on, let me give you a stand back this one. It's one you might relate to a lot, Anthony. Wink, wink. This is the Knuckle Show episode where we get to meet Wade's family. And from here, I'm really conflicted because I like episode 3 a lot. But also, it's really dumb. I'll let you take the reins on this while I dip for like half a minute. Episode 3 is whack and it's crazy. Can you believe it? The first thing in this episode is a Jew joke. Knuckles is canonically Jewish. Can you believe that, Anthony? It's crazy. Just so insane. What an
Um,
episode, though. It's so fun.
this episode is not great. Basically, Knuckles and uh, one second, yeah, Knuckles and Wade are now kind of staying at Wade's place with his family, and it's kind of just like um I don't know, it becomes like kind of almost like a sitcom type tone here because it's focusing on like Knuckles and his interactions with Wade's family in some cases, but it's actually more focused on Wade and like his relationship with his family a bit. Like we get introduced to his
Yeah.
sister and his mom, who are just kind of
Mm.
whatever characters,
People
and
were really
yeah.
dunking on Wade's sister, I noticed.
Yeah, I
And it
don't
was
like her.
like, eh, I think she's okay, like at least comparatively. None of the characters are that good, but I don't know why she was targeted
I don't know. I find her.
specifically.
I don't
But
like
I
her. I
don't know.
find her kind of annoying.
This is what I think made episode 3 so interesting in my eyes because it is very essentially just a classic sitcom dynamic just in the Knuckle show, which I'll be fair, the show sort of operates under before. You can kind of see it in the way it's presented. Uh, this echidna and this cop are an unlikely bond. Will these two ever get along? You know, it's a classic two-person sitcom dynamic. But this is really sitcom. Like, ooh boy, a wacky argument at the dinner table between family. What will go wrong? Oh boy. And I think it's fun. I like a lot of the characters. Probably the biggest laugh of the show for me is when the episode opens up and they go the way walks up and she's talking to his mom and he says he's bringing in a friend and then she goes, is she Jewish? And I laughed for certain reasons, wink, wink. But also it was funny because I just so unexpected. Like a knuckle show, and we're making specific reference to Judaism in that specific sense. And I don't know if Anthony brought it up in the 30 seconds I mysteriously disappeared, but they also imply Holocaust, which is
Yeah, I didn't.
crazy
Yeah, it's weird. Like they
because
imply that
um
she said that the
mm,
Jewish people has gone through like some like rough stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, I know what they're hinting at here. Like yeah, and they're like comparing it to kind of like Knuckles' journey as a warrior, which I guess like yeah,
mm,
it's interesting to
it's
say the
such a
least.
fucking odd joke because they're like, well, you know, our Jewish people have been from some bad times too. Like, oh, okay, buddy, all right. It was just
Yeah,
so
it's such a
odd.
weird
Like, I
thing
never
to
thought the
almost
Knuckle Show would
reference and
even.
imply in the Knuckles show. Wasn't expecting that, but
Yeah, yeah.
anyways, besides that, it's like
Mhm.
it's just a whatever episode. It's just kind of like I don't care for Wade's family all that much, and
Did you catch the cum joke? Because that was
I don't know if
interesting.
that was I don't know. I think it was more of a sex joke. I don't know. It was
No, no,
something
no,
like
because they
that.
do it so specifically. Where they find that cutout, um, and and because he finds the cutout, and Knuckles is like, "Oh, they do it because he looks at the spots and he's like, what is up with the shoulders?" And the shoulders specifically have white marks on it, and it's like
I
implied.
don't
I
remember
swear to God,
that.
I was not reading too far into that. But
He
point
said it was
is,
because he hugged it too hard, though I feel like he might have just
uh huh, uh huh.
that might be a
I'm sure it
subtle
was,
sex
buddy.
joke, yeah.
It was definitely a cum joke. I like
I don't
white
know about
spot on
that,
those
but
specific areas. Like, come on, you
it's
can't fool me,
definitely
Knuckle
like
Show.
having
Yeah,
to do with sex. A very interesting implications in this episode is what I could say here. Um,
Yeah,
anyways, yeah,
yeah.
besides that, there really isn't
The
much to
final
this
battle was
episode.
kind of cool. Like, oh,
Yeah,
they
that
ended with a
was
big
nice. I don't know.
brawl.
Some of the action scenes
Ooh,
here are cool with Knuckles. Like, it's nice. It's cool seeing him fight. But yeah, that's all I gotta say about this episode. I guess we could go into
yeah.
the
Um,
next one, which is
yeah,
peak
episode
cinema.
4.
I don't
This is
care if
when the
it's a
Knuckles
TV
show
show episode.
loses all like positive goodwill. Because I like the previous episode. It even had posters of Ren and Stimpy and Naked Gun 2.5. So I liked it by default. But this next one, um, the complaints of people being like, there's too much Wade Whipple. 3 sets it up because it's all about his family. I think it's very funny, but they definitely go a little excessive. But then episode 4 comes along, and Knuckles is there at the beginning. Then Wade gets kidnapped. He's there for a little bit more. He's knocked out. Episode is fucking Wade Whipple in a rock opera taking place inside his head to give him the motivation to become a hero.
Yeah, and
And
that's
this
like
rock
most of the
opera is
episode.
a retelling of the life of Knuckles the Echidna told through a parody rock opera form. And I'm just sitting there like, excuse me?
It's
What are you
so out of
doing?
place.
It's
It's
just
so
so
bizarre,
weird.
but like it's fascinating how much effort was put into it. Like there's actually some pretty good prop and like set design here that looks cool, but it's like what is the point of it? Why was there so much effort put into such a stupid sequence that doesn't make much sense within the context? Like why are they teaching him like this? Like even Wade says this,
I
he could have
know,
gotten the
right?
message through an email, but like yeah, you could have just like learned it in a different way. Why did it have to be this fucking way? Why did it have
I
to
do
take
think
up
it's
so
so
much
weird that
time?
like his whole growth is solved by him at first falling asleep and then waking up and going, "No, I didn't finish it." So he falls asleep again. So you have to hear the whole just story of it. First of all, it's a little odd to have one of Sonic Adventure's most iconic characters for the to call flashbacks. Uh, Main role to be put a rainbow in Wade's mouth so he can get into this stupid flashback where he's in this Knuckles suit and going through this whole thing. It is quite odd. I will be fair. I respect this episode on a production standpoint at least because it looks cool. I like the Knuckles design, that stupid fucking bird fella as he's in his thing. It looks interesting. They clearly put a lot of effort into it, especially when they're doing parts to like recreate like Green Hill in the rings,
Yeah.
and then eventually the special stages. It looks cool, but again, I am left sitting there like, what are you doing? Like, come on. It's just so baffling on so many levels. I was just so confused.
Yeah,
And
it
it's
was
like, come
weird.
on, like this really? Just so mm,
But it's like
I
also
just
I
I
also love it though because it's so funny to me. Like just the music and then there's this fucking big ass like dragon thing that says he's gonna go on Facebook and it's it's so fucking funny to me. I love it.
You know what's so funny? Sequence of all the Sonic things they could have referenced, there is a reference to Iblis, who is a big part of just like Sonic lore. He's a big fucking guy. And that makes into a joke about the Facebook marketplace. Like, well, if you're gonna put a deep cut like that to Sonic 06, why this so specifically? Just weird. Also, this is the only time Knuckles' dad, I guess, mentioned this entire show, and it's like a weird joke in his head. It's very odd, I have to say. I sort of like the big puppet, not puppet, that like design for the monster thing. But again, it's just so goofy. I will say, it was probably my favorite episode in terms of enjoyment because I was just so by this point I was like, what? What are you doing? How is this just so off the rails? They do this and have like Knuckles fighting, but it's like just so cheap looking, but I guess purposefully. if anything, it's sort of the yossification of hundreds of beavers if you look at it, because the same sort of idea, purposefully cheap. Maybe did Knuckles hundreds of beavers? Is that the connection we're gonna go with? Maybe, but point is, I like some stuff, but in the short of it, yeah, really is that bad. I just was confused by it, and then end of the episode doesn't help, where Wade just takes a child's bike, I guess. He's running off. He's just and the final climax of our episode is him tangling with like a biker or whatever.
Yeah,
This
it was like his
odd,
friend from the
odd.
bowling team he was in. Yeah,
Yeah. It's going, yeah, bah, bah. It's so
it's
funny, but
really
also just so
stupid.
stupid the way that
And
it
then he just
comes
shows up
across.
with Knuckles, and then they just go to back to Reno. So they go to Reno.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Yeah, he wins. Go
it's a
Knuckles.
really
And
stupid
then
cheesy episode, but I love it. It's like it's so
this
like
is
dumb.
my favorite one.
I think it's
And
like
Knuckles
it's
just
the
shows up
best
at the
and worst
end in the
episode of
beginning.
this show, if I'm being honest. Uh,
Yeah, it is the worst, definitely. But there is so many interesting decisions in how they like do it, and it really is. Episode 4 is like when the Knuckles show permanently loses its steam, because at this point, instead of devoting anything to Knuckles as like a character or anything interesting, it sort of just devolves into that like real nonsense where I'm just left there like, who was cooking, Doug? Were you? Because you certainly were not doing anything interesting. Like, whoo, boy, what a what a mishap that was. And as much as I like this episode, as much as I even as much as I like Wayne, I like the idea of his like family in this wacky situation. It ultimately still comes as a form of disappointment because it's like I know you could be like, well, don't go into it expecting this. Be happy with what you got. Maybe it's a good show, but not a good Knuckles show. I get that, but also when the show teases its best aspects of how it characterizes Knuckles the Echidna, and it just isn't focusing on that, I think people have a right to be upset. So even
yeah.
though when people throw out comments now like the Knuckles show was the worst Sonic media of all time, I'd rather get all 10 endings in Shadow than play this shit. That is exaggerated, and you are a fool for thinking that lowly of this show. I even like I it's weird, but I do get at least on a base level where that might come from because it's like, come on, this show was definitely disappointing to people who actually give a fuck about Knuckles. I give a fuck about Knuckles, so I was a little
Yeah.
disappointed. But I think that's all my thoughts on episode 4. Wacky ass time, but I think I liked it.
Episode
Episode 5,
5 is not.
following suit.
I think if I'm
Um,
being
this is
honest,
another one. I think there's
I didn't
like,
like this one.
yeah,
I didn't even like. I thought it was just. I don't know. It was just kind of lame
I
to me.
liked it, but I think it was another shit
It's
one.
like.
First of all, I think it was a little disappointing that they did not like. First of all, they're at a casino the entire time, and they didn't even bother to like. Come on, what about Casino Night Zone or Casinopolis from Sonic Adventure? You couldn't throw in a little nod, a little something there. I was a little disappointed by that. I thought they could have mixed in something. They had this casino setting, which oddly it was so stupid. This my first thought was, oh my god, it's like Leprechaun 3. Like, come on,
That's
so
funny.
stupid. But point is, when they get there, I feel like they don't make a lot of use out of the actual setting of the casino. There's not much there. I feel like you could have maybe they do like a little bit where while Wade has his thing going on, maybe Knuckles can get up on his thing. Maybe he can do some gags at the casino. Maybe he becomes a gambling addict or something. I don't know. I'm spitballing and that doesn't even make sense. But point is, you could have had some fun little bits at the casino. It's a unique setting. It's a fun setting, and there is not much done with it because instead of that, Wade finds his estranged father. Fun fact: you can tell Wade's father will betray him for two reasons. One, because actually three reasons. One, because it's predictable. Two, because this is the same plot as a fucking Steven Universe episode. Hi Josh, if you're listening, I always plug you. It's like the Steven Universe episode Drop Beat Dad with sour cream. That's something. And three, you can tell he's gonna betray him because he's British, and British people are evil. Yeah, that's what we'll say. The Wade dad stuff is not even terrible overtly, but it gives us this real impression of why give a fuck, you know?
Yeah, that's like my
Like
biggest issue
Wade,
with this. I don't
it
even like
kind of comes across as blah
it's
and
like not even
uninteresting,
terrible, this
and they
Wade
seem
stuff.
like,
There's nothing
mm,
inherently that awful about it, but it's just very
mm.
Like I feel like Wade is just like I don't hate him. He definitely has his moments. I like some of the scenes with him and Knuckles, like I said earlier in the series. But I feel like with this, it's just kind of because I feel like he just has such simple goals and motivations, and it's nothing that
It's
interesting
so
or
like
entertaining for
simple.
me.
I think the real reason I couldn't get into it is they I was looking up a thing actually. Well, I just found this the other day. Reading some interview and mm, I'm like a lot of inspirations for this stuff is Knuckles was to take a lot from like 90s sports movies, which if you know that going in, I think makes it make a little more sense because it is that sort of thing. In particular, some were mentioned was like fucking Adam Sandler shit, like Happy Gilmore. That's the
Mm,
man with that Adam Sandler golf movie. So, that was certainly a shock, and I guess it makes more sense from that perspective. But even still, watching it, I couldn't get invested because it felt more like a parody, like a parody of like a sports thing where it's like, oh, we have our big bad tournament, but it's bowling. No one watches fucking bowling tournaments. Don't you kid me. And then there's just this whole thing with like Wade and his dad. I find it so hard to get invested when the idea that he's gonna betray him is so obvious. Not even because, oh, well, we gotta have a villain, a twist villain, but also the idea is it's so easy to get because it's in that fucking Steven Universe episode I watched. It's like, oh, parent abandoned them for money. He randomly enters into his life again through certain circumstances. What, you think he's just gonna all of a sudden be a good parent to Wade? No,
mhm.
because that wouldn't make sense. And that's not how stories work. And I don't like using predictable as a criticism, but that whole thing was just like, oh, he's gonna do it. You're waiting for it, even when they're bonding. It just kind of, it's like, oh, it's kind of nice, but it ultimately just feels hollow, that fake bond, which I guess in context of the episode makes sense. But they build it up and build it up. They even have that scene with Wade's mom where she's like, now, girl, I wouldn't be trusting that hoe if I were you. He's not bussing. And they do that whole thing. So then when they actually cut to the scene, it's like, oh no, he was kidnapping them and working with the villains. It's like, whoa, what
Wow.
a shock! Like,
When it
come
really
on, man,
isn't. It's like
you're better than that.
it's just
It's
I
just
don't know. I don't even have much to say. Also, no joke, Knuckles is like barely in this one, and that might be because first off, forgot to compliment this, but the CG for television is like actually really good. Like I'll admit in the first
Knuckles.
episode
I
it
think
looks
looks
like a
around
little
on
bit
par. Like Knuckles, like the character himself, he looks around on par where
exact he
he
looks
was
on par
at
than how he
in
was in
Sonic
the
2. And that is a
movies,
big
yeah.
compliment because I really like how those Sonic movies
Yeah.
look visually. Some CGI looks a little iffy, but when it comes to the main stuff they need to get right, I think they really get it
Yeah,
right.
but I'll
And with
admit,
Knuckles,
like
he still holds suit. The
in like episode one, maybe I think I noticed that Sonic looked like a little bit off, but Knuckles looks fine. He looks good, like visually.
yeah,
I
no.
like it. Yeah, it's but like at the same time, it feels like they were almost running out of budget, so that might be why he's like appearing less by the end of the series.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, it's just like it's
It seems like
just
definitely a budgetary thing, which I assume
yeah,
why they made that pivot to Wade to be like, oh, that's
structural
why that
weight. That's
this
what
guy's gonna
Sonic
be
fans
such
want to see.
a big focus. But I don't, even regardless, I was just like,
It's like
eh.
I wish Knuckles had
I
something
really I
because
don't
he
know.
really doesn't do much. He's more like just a good
They
old
set up
helper for
some
Wade.
stuff in episode one that is ultimately just not followed through on because the whole idea is, oh, look at Knuckles, he's gonna like maybe learn some stuff about Earth. He's gonna get more accustomed to Earth because he's so like odd about it at the beginning. It's like, oh, maybe he's gonna teach him stuff about Wade. Wade helps Knuckles understand the human world. Knuckles helps Wade reconnect and redeem himself. It's like, yeah, they're gonna have both of those things. It's sort of thing. Um, but the problem is, Wade's character arc, I say character arc in quotes, uh, is mostly done through the rock opera in episode 4, which is goofy as shit.
Hmm.
And stuff in the last two episodes that feels hardly developed because even though the show is mostly about Wade, he is not given room for like an actual arc or anything. So it's just kind of like stupid. It doesn't tie into that at all. And Knuckles, he isn't really like at the end of the final episode, which we'll get to in a moment. He's like, "Oh man, I've learned so much." It's like, "Well, did you, bro? Did you?
He
What
didn't
time of what
really.
you got accepted as a Jew and you got to talk about Jewish people having funny hats and you didn't like that's all like come on. You did not learn much. And it's not because there are bits in these episodes that I think you could naturally maybe put in a bit or two to maybe like to do something. Because take this episode. The casino setting, maybe you could have some bits where while Wade's doing his family stuff, you have some bits of Knuckles just fooling around in the casino, like I mentioned up top. Not only do I think that would be funny, but also maybe while he's there, learning more about this environment, maybe like, oh, from there he learns to appreciate some aspects of the human world as he hasn't before. He's act treated everything so tribally in that first episode. Maybe from there that can connect to something and we can have a fun little bit. Maybe ties the art together full circle. This does not happen because Knuckles is in like a few little bits of episode 5, and that is it. And it's a little disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. I was disappointed by episode 5 in some respects. I think I sort of like the bowling tournament thing as ironically because it's just a stupid concept for something. And there was one joke. There were two jokes I liked. Well, there was one that was like they mentioned like Kevin James and Mall Cop, Paul
Yeah,
Blart.
they
That was
mentioned
funny.
Paul Blart.
And yeah, and then there's another one where they're talking about. I don't think we mentioned this. The fucking the costume
Yeah,
mascot joke.
yeah.
I like. Mention Albuquerque. It's like the Weird Al song. Ayo, zing.
I
But
also
other than that,
wanna.
episode 5 was an episode not my vibe.
Yeah, I didn't care for
Nailed
this
it.
one. One last thing I want to mention is I noticed that like it's a weird thing with episode 1 too, but Knuckles could just stand in like whatever. It doesn't matter. They don't try to hide him. Like he's just walking around in a casino. No one says anything about this big ass red echidna alien just waltzing around.
Mm,
Like I was expecting someone to say, "Oh, well, what is that?" or something like that, but no
See,
reaction. It's
I
almost kind
didn't
of funny.
mind at first because at first, I mean, the first episode is mostly still in Green Hills, and the bowling place that's implied to be relatively nearby. So you can be like, "Oh, this is the local town where Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles stop Dr. Eggman." So of course they're gonna know about our good pal Knuckles the
I guess
Echidna,
so. I still think
but
they should have been like
but
some sort of reaction though, like
you know,
something
that's what I'm saying. I think it's fine in those first episodes. You can make a justification, but by the time they're going all around, it's
the world.
like,
Yeah,
come on.
yeah.
It's
It's
not
kind of
even implied
stupid.
that Sonic the Hedgehog is that popular of a character. In
Yeah.
well, obviously the government got involved in one, and some stuff happened in two. But by this point, the only creatures of that vein that is known about would be Sonic, and I guess Tails. But even still, he's not as much. And then Knuckles. So, point that's a little weird from that respect. Although I guess this is the world where bowling tournaments are unironically popular, so I guess a talking echidna is not that strange. Um, yeah.
I guess so.
Uh,
Yeah,
episode
that's
6 now. I guess we'll just get into
it's
that.
not a good finale.
This
I gotta.
episode was ass, boys.
Yeah,
I was not fuck with it. First of all, I think this is the part where we really gotta talk about the villains of the show or lack thereof. Because
the
despite
quote
tying into
unquote
Gun in a
villain.
kind of cool
Yeah,
way,
I want to
they
talk
are
about the villain.
so undermined in
Yeah,
this.
so the main villain is
And
like
then the
this
other guy,
guy
the main
named
guy,
the
doesn't
Buyer
even
who
have a
doesn't even have
name.
a name, and it's kind of like it's kind
Yeah.
of just, I don't know, what's the point of him? He has no presence. He appears in only 2 episodes. All we know about him is that he worked for Eggman, and then he just appears and he has like no interact. He basically has no interactions with Knuckles. It's so forced. Like it's like they just had to think of
Mm.
something to do with Knuckles because they realized they forgot to give him any sort of development because he doesn't even really have much of like an arc. Like at first it's like, oh, he's gonna discover more about the planet. He's gonna try and train Wade. But not only does he like barely train Wade, but even then there's just not much to this arc. I was hoping there would be more of like a self-discovery journey involved of him like learning more about the planet, but there really isn't much to that. And I feel like it's like
No, they're
reflected
really,
with the
yeah.
conclusion of the villain almost. So,
No,
yeah.
no,
The
definitely.
pacing of the
The
show is
people
not
mention this,
good.
but the climax of this feels like just like a die what they did in the first Sonic movie, that little town fight where they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you go, yeah, you kick his ass." But the difference is in that one, Carrie Eggman is obviously a way more memorable character, and two, that felt more charming because it's like, oh, look at this small local town. They're gonna get together and destroy this guy. Green Hills Pride. The difference is this knuckle show takes place in the middle of a casino, so you don't really get that. And while this is going on, the fucking bowling tournament is still
Yeah,
happening.
two things that
Wade
are
is still
incredibly
doing his damn
unrelated.
bowling. And it's like, dude, I like Wade. I think he's fun. But also it's like,
It's just
bro, come
they focus
on.
too much
It's
on
just
this.
so goofy.
If this
Like,
was like a side thing, like it was the same balance of Tom and Sonic in the first movie, this would be fine, you know, a nice little like side thing. I don't hate Wade, it'd be fine. But I feel like it's just getting too much focus and getting a bit tiring. And I feel like these last 2 episodes are just kind of lame to me. Like I didn't really like care that much for them besides a couple of decent moments with Knuckles and Wade. And like
nah,
good for Wade for winning that bowling
definitely
tournament,
not.
good for him, but yeah, it's just like whatever. Like it's very like you said predictable and lame and I don't even really have much to say about this
Mhm.
Wade bowling stuff at all. So, yeah. And then it just
Yeah.
ends with them riding into the sunset, riding on a bike with shitty green screen in the background. Yeah. At least
Yeah,
Knuckles got to
it's
wear the
so
hat.
anticlimactic. That's the weirdest thing. Like it just
It
ends.
is. It
And you're
really
sitting
is.
there
The
like, oh,
ending is just abrupt.
so odd.
It's just like weird. Like, oh, it's over. Like,
The show just ended so fast. It's like I really didn't feel like it justified a lot of what time it took up. And it's just like I don't know, man. I really was not. I had fun with this last episode. Like there is a charm that sort of applies, but also it's still just like, eh. And the weirdest thing is I feel like it barely even tied into what is going to be coming up because I thought I watched the show because I'm like, okay, this is what Knuckles is doing in between Sonic 2 and the upcoming Sonic 3.
yeah, I thought there
What's he
was gonna
gonna
be
do?
something
What's our little end
interestingly
goal? But I feel like we really didn't learn
add to
much
him here.
about Knuckles, which kind of scares me because I feel like if he's not that focused on this, he's gonna be really fucking overshadowed
Overshadowed.
when we get to Sonic 3. So, especially when I got Shadow in the mix and presumably some other Adventure 2
Yeah, yeah,
characters
he
getting
will
the
definitely
limelight.
be
Admittedly,
overshadowed.
I've seen some people now be like, "Oh no, because the Knuckles show was bad. What if Sonic 3 is the similar fate where they focus too much on human characters and da 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 da?" I understand those fears, but rest assured, viewers, I have remained optimistic because our
Same.
goat, our boy Jeff Fowler, who directed the best episode of the Knuckles Show that is most like Sonic 2, he is still heading the reins for Sonic 3 in the director's
Yeah.
chair. So I'm sitting here like, yes, my goat Fowler, he's gonna give us peak again. And plus Sonic 3 is like my most hyped movie of the year, so I still have a
Not much is
feeling
coming out this year,
they're
so
gonna do
low
something.
bar, but yeah, same for me,
Well, yeah, but
definitely.
like regardless, I'm still very excited for it. I think they're gonna cook.
Yeah.
But um
I guess that's like all I
point
have to
is,
say.
it just yeah, I
It
don't
was
know.
fun. I had a fun
I'm
time with the show. I enjoyed most of the
yeah.
episodes, and like, I just think the plot and pacing really ruined this. And yeah, Knuckles really needed something here. It felt like there wasn't anything that was added to his character at all. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah, like it almost feels like by the end of the episode, last episode, like what was the point of all this, you know? But yeah,
Yeah,
I had fun though. I had some fun with
felt
it.
very, very it's weird, and I think in some aspects oddly unnecessary for the type of show this is.
Yeah.
And I really did not want to say that because I like Knuckles.
Knuckles is a
I
fun
like
character. Yeah,
Wade
I
even.
enjoy
I think
him.
he's fun. But it's like, alas, so much just wasted. And eh, again, my hopes for Sonic 3 remain high, but it was still just like,
Hmm.
eh, not could have been a little,
Yeah.
a lot better in a lot of aspects. So just a little disappointing. But, I still had fun. If we're going to overall ratings, I would say a 4 out of 10 because I like the first half of the show. It's fun. But when it starts, just episode 3 to 4, it's just when it's totally depletes. By the time I get to episode 6, I felt there was just so much dead air and so much just wasted. If this was called Wade Whipple featuring Knuckles, I'm sure it would get less hate. The people who are like, this is the worst thing the Sonic franchise has done. This is terrible. They ruined Sonic. Nah, nah. You're gay if you think that. Respectfully, of course. Like, no homo, like, insult. We support gays on this podcast. But overall, not a fan. High four. Watch
Same
You'll
with
probably find it
me.
fun, but
Yeah.
I don't think you'd find it good. That's my take at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
same with me with
And yeah,
high four.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's the episode. I know it was more knuckle centric than Hundreds of Beavers, but yeah. Thank you for
Well, it's
tuning
a
in
show
for another
compared to one movie,
episode.
so who cares? We had a fun time here. Stay tuned, boys. We are now kicking in. We are nearing our 50th
Yeah, we
episode.
got some things planned for
Bow.
that, so
We
stay
are
tuned
nearing
for
the
that
big
coming in the
5
next
0.
coming month, probably.
We got one episode of supersized franchise. We won't say what, but I think you'll love it at
Yeah.
home. Make sure
Also,
to stay tuned and yeah, just enjoy your time. Get a nice night or good morning, depending on when you're listening to this. We don't separate here,
yeah.
and stay tuned for more Campycast coming up in
Hmm.
the coming weeks.
Yeah, and yeah, thank you
Have a
for
good one.
watching. Sorry if you heard some of my background noise. My bad, and bye bye.